You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Feel like who art Ed?
Try to slice it.
Who art is Mr. Wood art Ed me?
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted, weekly art history for all ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood, and today we're looking at the original graphic novels of the medieval world, Illuminated Manuscripts. Before Gutenberg came up with his printing press in the 15th century, every single book had to be copied by hand. This painstaking work was often done in monasteries by highly skilled monks and nuns. These workshops within the monastery were called scriptoria. The process was a team effort. First, a scribe would meticulously copy the text onto pages made from a processed animal skin known as parchment or finer quality vellum. The scribe would leave specific spaces blank for illustrations, decorative initials, and borders. This is where the illuminator, the artist of the manuscript, would take over. Using brushes often made from just a few hairs of a squirrel's tail, they would add vibrant illustrations and, most importantly, apply thin sheets of real gold or silver leaf. Finally, the finished decorated pages would be sent to a bookbinder who would sew them together and enclose them in a protective cover, which itself could be a work of art adorned with leather, jewels, and metalwork. This art form flourished across Europe from roughly 400 CE to 1450 CE, serving as the primary way for preserving and transmitting knowledge, especially religious texts like the Bible. Now, here are 5 quick facts about illuminated manuscripts. Number 1, the illuminated in illuminated manuscript literally means lit up. The name comes directly from the extensive use of gold and sometimes silver leaf in decorations. The process, known as gilding, was extremely delicate. The illuminator would first apply a base layer of a sticky substance like glaire made from egg whites or a thicker plaster-like mixture of gesso. The gesso would raise the surface slightly, giving the finished gold a three-dimensional cushioned effect. The artist would then breathe on the surface to create a little bit of moisture and carefully lay a paper-thin sheet of hammered gold onto it. After pressing it down, they would polish it, often with a smooth, hard tool like a polished stone or sometimes an animal's tooth. The result was a brilliant, reflective surface that shimmered and shone, especially in the flickering candlelight of a medieval church or library. The idea was that it wasn't just a simple text to read. The gold and silver leaf made it shine with its own divine light, making it a more sacred and precious object. Number 2, the most expensive coloring, though, didn't come from gold or silver. It was actually the blue. While we often think of gold as a symbol of status and luxury, the real money material was the vibrant blue known as ultramarine. It was made by grinding up the semi-precious stone of lapis lazuli. The name lapis lazuli means from beyond the sea because for medieval Europeans, the only known source of the stone was a mining district in what is now modern-day Afghanistan. This lengthy and dangerous trade route made it astronomically expensive. Because of the cost, ultramarine was used sparingly and reserved for just the most important figures, most notably the robes of the Virgin Mary, which is why she's often depicted in brilliant blue. Other pigments came from a variety of sources, red from a mineral called vermilion, or from crushed insects. Green from malachite, and yellow from a plant called weld. Each color required a complex process of grinding, mixing, and binding, usually with egg yolk to create the paint. Number 3, mistakes were scraped off the page with a special knife. Working on vellum was not forgiving. Unlike paper, you couldn't simply use an eraser. When a scribe or illuminator made a mistake, a misspelled word, or a smudge of paint, they had to correct it very carefully. The primary tool for this was a sharp knife, which they would use to painstakingly scrape the dried ink or paint off the surface of the animal skin. If done correctly, the area could be smoothed over and rewritten. But sometimes mistakes were just too big, or the scribe wanted to have a little fun. In some manuscripts, you'll find errors that have been creatively corrected. For instance, a scribe might draw a little figure pointing to a missing word in the margin with a note that says, "Oops." In other cases, they might draw a vine or a little monster to cover up a splotch of ink, incorporating the mistake directly into the manuscript's decoration. Number 4. Many manuscripts contain bizarre and hilarious doodles in the margins. While the main text was usually a serious religious work, the margins often became a place for illuminators to let their imaginations run wild. These drawings are known as marginalia. They had little to no connection to the text itself and featured some of the strangest things you can imagine. Knights battling giant snails, monkeys playing bagpipes, killer rabbits seeking revenge on hunters, and strange human-animal hybrids. Art historians have many theories about why these exist. They could have been simple doodles from a bored monk, a form of social or political satire, visual puns, or inside jokes meant for other monks in the scriptorium. Whatever their purpose, they give us a fascinating and often hilarious glimpse into the medieval sense of humor and the creative minds of the artists who were confined to illuminating very formal texts. And finally, number 5. Some books were believed to have been made by angels, not humans. The skill and detail in some illuminated manuscripts were so extraordinary that they seemed beyond human capability. The most famous example of this is the Book of Kells. According to a 12th century account by the writer Gerald of Wales, the book was so divine in its intricacy and perfection that many believed it was created not by human hands, but dictated and illustrated by an angel during the night. The legend speaks to the sheer awe these books inspired in medieval viewers. The level of detail is often microscopic. For example, on the famous Chi-Rho page, there are intricate Celtic knots and swirling patterns that are so small and perfect, they almost require a magnifying glass to fully appreciate. This level of devotion and artistic mastery elevated the book from simple objects to holy relics. And with that in mind, for this episode, I think the perfect work to discuss would be the Book of Kells. It's widely regarded as the pinnacle of Insular art, the style developed in the monasteries of Ireland and Great Britain. It's an illuminated manuscript of the 4 Gospels of the New Testament created by Celtic monks around 800 CE. The exact origin is debated, but scholars believe it was likely started at a monastery on the island of Iona off the coast of Scotland and then brought to the Abbey of Kells in Ireland for safekeeping after a series of brutal Viking raids. The book is famous for its extravagant and complex decoration. Of the 340 surviving folios or pages, only 2 are completely without decoration. The artists used a vibrant palette of colors, including the ultramarine I mentioned earlier. The pages are filled with figures of humans, animals, and mythical beasts, often twisted together in elaborate Celtic knots and spirals. The sheer density of decoration is breathtaking. Every space is filled with intricate, energetic patterns. The most celebrated page is Folio 34R, known as the Chi-Rho page. This page introduces the Gospel of Matthew with the story of the Nativity. The central focus is a massive, ornate monogram of the first 3 letters of Christ's name in Greek, Chi, X, Rho, P, and Iota, I. The letters themselves are almost completely lost within a dizzying web of spirals, interlace, and hidden imagery. If you look closely, you'll find angels' heads, a cat chasing mice who have stolen a communion wafer, and even an otter catching a fish. And this isn't just about decoration. It's a profound act of meditation and worship. The artists weren't just illustrating a word, they were making the word itself a holy image. The immense effort and microscopic detail poured into every single page were meant to honor the sacred text and encourage the viewer to get lost in its complexity, contemplating the divine mystery it represents. This concludes this week's episode of Who Arted, part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you found this tolerable, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. You can find images of the work being discussed this week and every week on social media at Who Arted Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course on the website whoartedpodcast.com. Podcast done.